All right, we're here at Full Detail Automotive with Mike.
What's up?
He's a local RX7 shop. I'm happy to be here and support the shop. Like I said before in the last videos, I want to do all my videos at this shop to keep everything as consistent as possible. It's not too far from my house, and I want to support the local RX7 community here in Tampa. So
Thank you.
this is where we host the Great Sevens Day, man. Amazing Sevens Day. If you haven't seen it, come out. It's definitely the biggest RX7 gathering here in the state, probably, that I've been to. I don't know how South Florida does it. I know they do have some pretty big ones, but definitely here in Tampa, like it's something legit, and every year it's getting bigger and bigger. So
Yeah, we have all the past videos too on our YouTube channel. Shout out to Static Vision and Michael Bartley, our photographer. He, between the two of them, they capture the events very, very well. So if you want to get an idea of what it's like to be there, that's the video.
So I'll put the links in the video, and we'll go from there.
I forgot to film this at the shop while we're at the dyno, so here I am filming it now. My main goal of this dyno trip was to continue on with my dynoing per each part I added to the car. So if you remember last time, I dynoed the car bone stock, and then while in the dyno, I installed the cap back on it to see if it made any difference, which it did not. So since then, I've installed the Autoexe intake, and that's been the only power modification I've done. So in addition to that, I have my new stock mount intercooler that, if you've been following my channel, I've been developing. I wanted to test that. I wasn't looking for any kind of horsepower gain or anything like that. This is a reliability mod, so I'm looking strictly for lower intake air temperatures, right? Luckily, our conditions were almost identical to the day we dynoed the exhaust and whatnot, so we can have a true apples-to-apples comparison to see if the Autoexe intake does anything for these cars, if it gives you any kind of horsepower or torque or anything like that. So that was good. Not to mention the heat that we're dynoing in. This is a good stress test for the intercoolers. It's miserable to do, and it's definitely not good for power numbers. If you're looking for peak power and, you know, bragging rights, don't dyno on a hot day. That's just totally wrong. But this is good to test for intake air temperatures because we're dynoing in really bad conditions, you know. Not the best airflow. Granted, this time we do have proper fans. I made sure I got proper airflow through the intercooler. You'll see that. But it's still not prime conditions. You're sitting in a static shop where it's 97 to 100 degrees. We started at 97 degrees, and by the time we were done dynoing with the last ones, it was 100 degrees in shop. We wanted to stress test the new intercooler to see how bad we can heat soak it and find any faults with it. You'll see that in the video. Now, the intercooler gauge I have in the car, it reads inlet and outlet temperatures on the new intercooler only. So for the first 3 dyno runs where it has the factory stock mount, the top number is going to be just the engine bay temperature. I have the sensor strapped to the strut bar, so it's just measuring the ambient temperature right around the strut bar. The lower number is going to be the actual outlet air intake temperature coming out of the intercooler, so that's going to be the real life AITs from that. Now, when I swap my intercooler in it, then you're going to have the inlet and outlet. That's just to calculate the efficiency of the intercooler. What really matters is the outlet temperature. And like I've said before, this is worst case scenario. This is probably reading a bit higher than the true air intake temperature. So I'll just take that into consideration. And on that note, watch till the end of the video. I got a surprise for you guys, thanks to Mike. So there's going to be more on that to come. And again, I'm being totally transparent with all this data. There's not going to be any horsepower claims or anything like that. I just want to see if my design and my calculations work in real life, and I'll let the results speak for themselves. Alright, here's just to show you I got flow through the factory intercooler this time. So we have proper flow, which is good.
We did 2 pulls under what the boost should be. The first pull we had some kind of weird issue, and we were only making 7 pounds on the second turbo. We don't know why. It might have been because the car was too cold. Maybe the thermal pellet wasn't open on the double throttle. Whatever the reason was, the first run we had a low horsepower number and low boost. So the second 2 pulls, back to what the boost should be, and we're back up to the numbers that we expected. And you'll see the numbers on that with just the intake. The temperature.
The first pull with the stock intercooler, I did a little bit too cold, and I'm guessing that's why we had weird numbers. You'll see that in the video here in a minute. The car was cold to start out with because, you know, we got to the dyno, cleaned up, got it ready, got it hooked up. So the car was able to cool off almost completely, you know, down to about 100 degrees or 130 degrees, whatever the close to ambient was, because the car had been sitting for probably an hour and a half or so. So the first dyno we did, we started with just the factory gauge when that was all the way up to operating temperature, but the thermostat hadn't opened yet. So when we did the pool, we got low numbers. So my best guess is the factory has some kind of fail-safe in there that either retards the timing or something until you reach, you know, 175, 180 degrees, and we're probably right around 160 degrees based off the oil temperature in the gauge. So something funny happened with the first dyno. No big deal. The intercooler started off with ambient, you know, 100 degrees, or is it actually like 98 degrees? I think it started at. I have the numbers posted after each dyno so you can see the results and whatnot. Because we had pretty much the exact same conditions as the original dyno, we had a really good comparison of the stock intake versus the Autoexe. You can see it picked up 3 horsepower here, about 9 foot-pounds of torque. That exceeded my expectations. The horsepower is about right. We got more torque. I'll jump into this deeper in another video, but I assume it's because of a boost spike that you typically see with aftermarket intakes. But we'll compare that later. I don't want to make this video too long.
The temperatures today, hot as balls. Luckily, but unluckily, this is about the same temperature we had when we did the initial dyno with bone stock in the cat bag. So at least we have good quality data to compare to. You know, we have similar conditions, even though it's you know, a year apart. Car really doesn't have many more miles on it than it did that day. Fresh oil change, nothing else changed other than the intake. There. So, what do you think about my endeavor here, creating a factory replacement stock mount intercooler for the OEM Plus guys?
I think it's very nice. I think the duct is very nice. I think the intercooler itself, the form, the fit, the shape, the whole nine, I think it's all very, 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 very nice. Because even for like a production product, I think this is something, like if there was a logo on here of a shop name, nobody would bat an eye at it. Very high quality piece. I think it's very, very nice. My only contention, as I've mentioned before, I am not a believer in any stock mount. But according to the data that you have so far, the preliminary data from the street and so on and so forth, it seems to be doing very well. Which, of course, we're about to get the data now to find out. Of course, in a somewhat controlled environment. But I think it's nice. I think it's very, very nice. So long as the numbers all make sense, my opinion will sway.
Well, I've said this before, and I've told you privately and openly, you really can't replace a quality V-mount setup. That's 100% the best setup you could do in RX7. No doubt about it, hands down. A properly done V-mount setup is the way to go. But for the OEM Plus guys that want easy, reversible mods, this is a good, just even the Gretty stock mount is better than the factory stock mount. It's a reliability mod, and that's what matters to me. If you're going for peak horsepower track and you don't care about modding, V-mount's the way to go, 100%. But if you just want, basic upgrades, easy upgrades, and a little bit more reliability, a stock mount, I think is a must, because as we've seen with the numbers, stock mount, the factory stock mount is just
abysmal.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It is absolutely ridiculous. It's a placeholder for a piece of equipment that's supposed to be on a turbo car is all it is.
Yeah.
But you're right. The biggest thing with the stock mount, sitting still, driving, all these different things, the heat exchange just isn't there. So even if you're cruising on the highway, the temps are still going to be 15, 20 degrees above ambient, which is insane. Cruising on the highway will just never thermally dissipate the heat, which is...
And it's even been higher than that with my testing. I'll have to show you from the video. The stock mount cruising on the highway is usually 25 or more, just because the engine bay. The engine bay, I have the sensor on there, and that is right above the turbos. It's really hot, but that's still 145 degrees on average. I've seen it spike at 160, so it's just hot under here, and that kills it. So.
Yeah, well, with the stock mount, as long as you can get plus or minus, I would say 10 degrees within ambient, even cruising on the highway, and sitting still is going to rise no matter what. But
yeah.
If cruising on the highway you can get within, ambient that close, I'd call that a win either way. That's pretty good. So I'm excited to see exactly what it's going to do. A horsepower buff would be a good plus, but of course that's not why we're here. We're here for reliability. We're here for controllable air temps. We're here for reliability.
Yeah.
So as long as we get lower air temps, we win. I think we win on that one.
All right, well, let's do the next dynos with this.
Unfortunately, there was an issue with the dyno computer, and it did not save the dynos for the runs with the Ignitor. So I don't have clean examples like the previous ones, but you will see the dyno in the video with Mike at the end. We did not see any gain in horsepower with the Ignitor, but we did see the air-fuel ratio go leaner by 0.5 point. So if we were running 9.5 air-fuel ratio before, we saw 10. If we saw 10, we saw 10.5. So the Ignitor is doing something. That being said, it also introduced a misfire to the car. Now, I can't fault the Ignitor just yet. I'm going to do some troubleshooting. I'm going to install the factory Ignitor and see if it can still do it, because it is pretty repeatable right around the turbo transition. So that may be an issue with the Ignitor. I'm going to dive deeper in this in another video, but I got to be totally transparent about this data.
We're starting with a heat-soaked intercooler, so we're good.
Good data.
Go. Heat-soaked intercooler. We're going to try to get it hotter. Stress testing it. Oh, we're pretty steady. It only creeps up afterwards.
Here's a pretty good visual representation of the two intercoolers and their air temperatures. We're fortunate enough to have the same starting point for two of the runs at 103 degrees each for the factory stock mount and for the dual pass. You can see even starting at 103 degrees, it surpassed the temperature of a dual pass run that started around 119 degrees.
All right, so we finished up the dyno session. And here's what we got. It's to be expected, but at least we have real world numbers to prove it. So, you want to explain what we got here?
Yeah. So our solid line is stock intercooler, and our dash line is with Sean's intercooler. As you can see, peak horsepower gain is, it's already set a little bit. It's already set. Yeah, that's the peak spot right there.
Yep.
All right, boom, 10 horsepower. 10 horsepower differential and 10 torque differential right there at 6,500 RPM. But you can see the split between both the lines. It's pretty much the same everywhere. So, I mean, plus or minus, not minus, but on average, we'll call it 8 horsepower, 8 torque gain across the entire power band, all of it, which is incredible. And then even on top of that, if we add boost on top, I think it's about 2, at the same boost, mind you. Look, perfect, 872, 872, 230 versus 241, 186 versus 194. So at the exact same boost as well, and then we'll put AFR over top of this, so lambda 1, and slightly leaner as well. So 9.8 versus 10, essentially. So what I see from that, of course we're not logging air temp because God doesn't log air temp, but you can watch the video and you can see the air temp graph and overlay with the whole thing and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure Sean will do some clever editing for that. But the data here is indisputable. The intercooler works very well, like very well. And then even that, once we were doing back-to-back-to-back pulls, the air temp essentially maintained. In fact, in order to get it over 130 degrees, we had to hit it. And with the ambient temperature being 100 degrees, 99.3, the humidity, I guess is low. I guess that's low. And with the fans that we have running over it, that's what it took to get above 130. And even when it got above 130, it didn't go up there. It crept up there. So as far as I'm concerned, this intercooler works very well, especially compared to the stock intercooler, which is... Oh, I'm looking for air temp. We're gonna hit log air temp. Anyway, yeah, it works. So I call this good. The igniter. So the RMagic igniter got put in there after the fact. I don't know that we have any.
Oh, no solid data.
No, but what we do know is that it did lean it out up top quite a bit. Not quite a bit, but it leaned it out a fair amount up top on average, which I guess is something. It did something for sure.
Yeah.
So there's that as well. But
so one thing to take into consideration with that is this is the factory ECU. So this thing is in fail-safe pretty much. Don't blow the engine all the time. That's why we're running 10 to 1. We're running below 10. You saw that. The factory tunes it like that because they don't want to warranty motors, right? So it did do something. Did we pick up any horsepower? Nothing. But I was talking with Mike. Maybe you'll foul plugs that much less. You know, it does something. Maybe it does more when you're able to tune it with the Power FC or something like that and pour more fuel out. Maybe you'll get cleaner spark. I don't know. I'll keep it in there. It's going to do something. Maybe down the road, again, it's more peace of mind that I've got a little bit better spark in there at really rich air fuels. I'm nowhere near running lean and getting detonation that way. And again, this goes back to my whole preaching. We did not gain any horsepower today with the intercooler. It did not create any horsepower. We recovered it. And that's why we saw a direct correlation, exactly the same boost, like you pointed out. That is recovered horsepower via air temperature. That's it. We have denser air going to the engine. The intercooler is doing its job. It's not a power adder. The turbos are doing all the work. So it's going to make the turbos work that much less, because in order to make 10 pounds of boost, you know, under that temperature, you know, they're having to work that much harder. Luckily, this thing does not have pressure loss with the stock twins. It's like a half a pound or something, so they're not really overworking that much. But I'm happy with the results, and I think this is going to be a good solution for just a reliability mod for us OEM Plus guys for a bolt-on.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is very nice. Yeah, going into it not with the intention to gain horsepower or pick up horsepower or this is going to make my car faster. No. The point of the mod is to make it run safer, because the reality is in chasing horsepower, especially in a stockish setup like this, you're going to hurt it. So there's no way around that. You're going to hurt it. So give it every chance it can to basically operate the best it can. And keeping your air temps within ambient when doing back-to-back pulls is just like the greatest thing in the world to me. In fact, it's my whole argument for a V-mount. Is solely for air temps. So if you can achieve that with the stock mount intercooler, in motion, sitting still doesn't really matter so much of a big deal. But in motion, then V-mount loses a lot of its value. Quite a bit. So that's cool with me. Yeah. This is really good. It's very, very nice. And what's even nicer about it is once it was hot, once it started moving, the air temp dropped quite a bit. So it recovered a lot.
And that's what you'll see in my videos is with the fan running, it's able to recover like that. If you don't have a fan on that, if you have the stock one or a Greddy or any other aftermarket one without a fan, it can't recover because you're sitting there in traffic or whatever, your radiator fans are blowing on it, it's just soaking more. Here you're pulling ambient temperature over it and it's able to recover. So that's the argument for having a mechanical help pulling fresh air.
Yep. So that works.
Yeah, that works. I'm excited, but I want to thank Mike. You guys heard me preach about like getting real life data. He's donating this to me. This is how cool this guy is. Ready elbow. So now I can get you guys real life data, put that air temperature in the airstream so we can see if my hypothesis is correct. And you can call me on it and let's see if the air temperature is different. I'm going to have the air temperature in the intercooler, drive, do the same route, and then I'm going to move it into the inline airstream, and then we'll see if the temperatures drop. So if we are getting the worst case scenario on the back of the intercooler, Again, I'm being totally transparent about this data. If this thing's a big hunk of crap, it is, but to me, I'll keep running this and it's more reliable.
Yes, absolutely. Very good stuff. Excellent work on this intercooler. Doing very well.
Again, big thank you to Full Detail Automotive. Come here for your RX7 needs and other stuff. Z's, he does pretty much everything. There's a couple crazy 2J swaps I was just looking at in there. So, great shop in Tampa. I'll be dynoing here more, and let's hope to see you guys at 7's Day.